Long ago, in a land shaped by gentle hills and wide open skies, a broad and quiet river flowed calmly through the countryside. It moved without hurry, reflecting the clouds above and carrying the cool breath of the mountains into the plains. Along the riverbank stood a small village. The people there lived simple lives. They rose with the sun, worked the land with their hands, and rested when night fell. The river was the heart of their world. It watered their fields, cooled the air, and reminded them that life, like water, must keep moving. Among the villagers lived a farmer named Jaya. He was strong, disciplined, and deeply devoted to his work. From early morning until the sky turned red at sunset, Jaya labored in his fields. He believed that effort alone shaped destiny. Yet, year after year, his harvests were smaller than he hoped. As others celebrated modest success, Jaya felt frustration tighten in his chest. "I work harder than anyone," he thought. "Why does success still escape me?" Whenever the rains were late, Jaya would walk to the riverbank. He stood there silently, watching the water flow past his feet. The river never rushed. It never complained. Still, it traveled endlessly toward the sea. Not far from the village stood a small monastery beneath a great banyan tree. One afternoon, tired in body and troubled in mind, Jaya decided to visit it. There, beneath the spreading branches, sat the Buddha. His presence was calm, like a clear sky after rain. Jaya bowed deeply and spoke of his endless labor, his disappointments, and his growing anger toward life. The Buddha listened without interruption. When Jaya finished, the Buddha rose gently and said, "Come, walk with me." They walked together to the river. The Buddha asked softly, "Do you see how the river moves?" "It flows slowly," Jaya replied. "Does it ever stop?" the Buddha asked again. "No," said Jaya. "It flows day and night." "Does it fight the rocks in its path?" the Buddha asked again. Jaya shook his head. "No, it flows around them." The Buddha smiled. And yet, over time, even the hardest stone is shaped by this gentle water. Jaya stood quietly, listening to the sound of the river. "Effort is important," the Buddha continued, "but effort without understanding becomes struggle. When the mind pushes too hard, it breaks itself. When it flows with wisdom, it shapes the path." Jaya returned home deep in thought. In the days that followed, he began to observe himself. He noticed how tense his shoulders were while working, how his breath grew sharp with impatience, how fear of failure drove his hands harder than care ever had. That season, Jaya tried something new. He still worked diligently, but he paused when his body grew tired. He rested when the sun burned high. He cleared channels carefully instead of angrily. When doubt arose, he stood by the river and watched it flow. At first, nothing changed. His old frustration returned. The crops did not grow overnight. The land did not reward him immediately. But then Jaya remembered the river. It did not rush. It did not demand results. Weeks passed. One morning, while clearing a blocked irrigation channel, Jaya noticed the water begin to move freely again. It flowed gently into his fields, soaking the soil deeply. The earth softened. The crops slowly turned greener. This time, the change did not come from force, but from patience. When harvest season arrived, Jaya stood quietly in his fields. The crops were fuller than they had ever been, not because he had worked harder, but because he had learned when to wait. Grateful, Jaya returned to the monastery. "I understand now," he said. "The river does not hurry, yet it never fails." The Buddha nodded. When the mind stops rushing, clarity appears. When the heart stops resisting, peace flows in. Years passed and Jaya grew older. He became an elder in the village. respected not for his strength, but for his calm. When younger farmers came to him with complaints and worry, Jaya did not argue or explain. He simply took them to the river and stood there in silence. At first, they were confused, but slowly, as they listened to the water and felt the breeze, understanding arose without words. The river taught them what no lecture could, that life is not conquered, it is understood, and that patience, like water, shapes even the hardest paths.